it was such an interesting experience because I had never seen him in person before, and you see someone blown up so larger than life on the media for so many years. To see them in person is very jarring, and you get the sense that it's like, oh, this is just another guy. I guess when you're on any jury, you have elements of that person's future in your hands. So whether it was Trump or whether it was some stranger off the street in Manhattan who I had never heard of before, if you commit to sitting on the jury, you can change that person's life forever.
So that was Kara McGee. She is one of the many potential jurors who've been excused or dismissed from this high-profile criminal trial in Manhattan. Sue, it's interesting to hear in their own words their impressions of Donald Trump.
Right. When I was listening to that, it had echoes of what Michael Cohen said about Donald Trump when they finally saw each other in court, and I think E. Jean Carroll made the same thing. He's just a guy. Yeah.
It's such a powerful point.
It was, and just to let that sit there. I mean, he sort of feels like he's the Wizard of Oz, and he's larger than life, and even the way he dresses, with these coats and
red ties,
he looks larger than life. But when you see him there in person, he's just a guy.
He's just a guy who you took down.
Well, not only partly, right? Just even beginning to is something. There's a long way to go. It's not just about what was done, but what I think will be coming. So it's sort of we're in the process of taking down Trump, of holding him accountable, of holding him to justice. That's sort of my take on it.
You know what, Michael Steele, I keep thinking is there's always this reptilian survival instinct on Trump's part that becomes evident when accountability is near. And you saw it with the January 6th Select Committee, right? So the GOP, my GOP accomplices, they fumbled the ball and the January 6th Select Committee hearings happened, probably costing Republicans a red wave, thank God, in the midterms, and moving democracy up to a top 3 issue for independent and Democratic voters. You see what a criminal trial does to Donald Trump, again, in the words of a potential juror, in the words of journalists there watching it, nodding off yesterday, being described as just a guy who the jurors have his future in their hands. This is what Trump has sought to avoid for many, many years.
Absolutely, Nicolle. And it is something I've kind of thought about since the beginning of all of this and concluded what we're watching is the demythification of Donald Trump. The myth, the man, the legend that was built up in his own mind and fostered out among the public. And, some folks absorbed it in their skin and it became a part of who they are and how they identify themselves. Others are, were skeptical, but yeah, he's good entertainment. Others, I did business with him and it didn't go well. So everyone had their own little story, their own little narratives about Donald Trump. But I think now watching this unfold the way it is clarifying, and I hope it is for a lot of Americans out there, that he is just a guy. And not only that, but he's a bad guy. He's a guy that really doesn't give a damn about anyone around him, including all the people he suckered into his university, suckered into buying his steaks, suckered into, staying at his hotels, all of it. It's all been sort of this buildup of a mystery and myth about a guy who's from Queens. Not saying that that's a bad place to be from, but there are a lot of guys and gals from Queens. In other words, he's just a guy who went out, tried to cut his path in the world and, had some success here and there. In other words, he's done what a lot of us has done. Some would argue, he's done it better than most, but he did it on the backs of others. And he did it at the expense of others. There are people who've gone to jail for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has not once been accountable for that. Weisselberg, the guy closest to him, is, nailing himself on the proverbial cross for Donald Trump. For what? Dude, you're 80 years old. What the hell are you doing? Right? So this process, I think, is important because it strips away all of that. And you see just the guy sitting at a table, being held accountable, and could likely go to jail. There you go.